And hello, everyone. It is Mock Draft Monday. 32 teams, 32 chances to get it right. This is our first version of our mock draft for the season. We have trades. We have a lot of different pieces moving. And it'll be fun. Where does your team go in this NFL draft? Well, you'll stay tuned to find out. If you're new to the channel, make sure to give us a like and subscribe so you don't miss any of the latest here on Rich Sports Talk. If you want to jump to the front of the line during the live stream, you can always use that super chat feature. And of course, use that fun super chat feature to drop in your favorite sticker. Also, if you love NFL draft content, see that like and subscribe button, make sure to bash it so you don't miss any of our latest content. We have a lot to talk about today. 32 picks, 32 opportunities. And I have some intriguing thoughts on this draft. I think we're going to see a lot of movement in a certain section of the draft, and I will get into all of it. But first, we will go to Green Bay with the first pick on the clock. It will be the Tennessee Titans. So now the question is, what do the Titans do? I have, with the first pick in the 2025 NFL Draft, I have the Titans going with Cam Ward, the quarterback out of Miami. Look, I think this is pretty obvious at this point that Ward's going to be the number one pick. They need a quarterback. They needed to get a franchise guy, and it seems all signs are pointing to Ward. So now let's start with a little bit of chaos. Who is going number 2 in the NFL Draft? In a surprise, I have the Cleveland Browns with the second pick going with Shedeur Sanders, the quarterback out of Colorado. Now, listen to me and hear me out. I believe that this is a real possibility here at the second pick because look at the actions of the New York Giants going out and aggressively signing Russell Wilson. I think that they have gotten enough intel that they feel the Browns are going to go this direction. Keep in mind with the Browns, you have a young quarterback. You have a young quarterback here in Shedeur who can come in, sit behind Deshaun Watson. They're going to move off of Deshaun Watson at the end of the year. It just makes too much sense. It's a great opportunity. And also with Cleveland, it gives them a little bit more marketability. You look at the Cleveland Browns, they want attention. They want the limelight here in the NFL. Deshaun Watson has been a disaster there. They're looking to move on, change the page. And again, could Abdul Carter be in play here? Absolutely. I think that would be a fun dual end to have him across from Myles Garrett. However, Cleveland needs a quarterback. They don't have the long-term plan at the quarterback position. And as much as I see all these mock drafts going about moving Shedeur, falling in the draft, I think the Giants are telling us they've got enough intel. We know that they really wanted Shedeur Sanders, that they are giving enough intel that this is a strong possibility that the Cleveland Browns will select Shedeur Sanders with the second overall pick. So now the question is, Giant fans, what do they do? The top 2 quarterbacks are off the board. Do they reach at number 3 for a quarterback? That is a possibility, but I think the Giants will do the smart thing. I think the Giants will get Travis Hunter, the wide receiver and quarterback from Colorado. Look, they take the best athlete. They get a guy that can help on the back end of their defense, a guy that can make an impact on the offensive side of the ball. I believe that Hunter will play more D back for the Giants, but he can still go into certain sub packages on the offensive side of the ball. You already have an elite number 1 in Malik Neighbors. Now you get another dynamic guy, and it's also a nice situation for Hunter where he doesn't have to come in right away and be a team's number 1 receiver. So yes, the Giants are disappointed that they aren't able to get their franchise quarterback here at 3, but they take what they believe is the best player in the draft here. Moving on to pick number 4, we have the New England Patriots, and the Patriots go with Abdul Carter, the edge from Penn State. Look, this is not necessarily a home run pick because I do think that the Patriots' main goal in this draft is to build a wall around Drake May. They also need to get him a weapon. Now, it is tempting. I could easily see them here going with the best offensive lineman in the draft here at number 4, but you have a defensive coach. You have a new defensive philosophy in Mike Vrabel, and you cannot tell me he is going to pass up on the most dynamic pass rusher in this draft, what some believe could be the best player in this draft at number 4. Yes, it is tempting to go offensive line here, but I think the Patriots are going to look at the value later in this draft. They have 2 third-round picks, keep in mind, that they're going to address the offensive line and the playmakers later. They just take the best player available on the board. Moving on to number 5, we have the Jacksonville Jaguars. And I think one of the big first curveballs of this entire draft, I have them going with Armand Membou, the offensive tackle out of Missouri. Yes, they could go a lot of directions here. Yes, I've seen a lot of Mason Graham mocks here. I think the defense is a major issue with Jacksonville, but here is the main thing. They need Trevor Lawrence to work. He needs protection. They need it to work out in Jacksonville. I think they view it as they can get more weapons at the top of the second round, and they're not going to get this value of offensive lineman here. Membou can play inside a guard. He's a plug-and-play right tackle. I think this is a sensible decision. Liam Cohen and this new staff that came in from Tampa Bay have been very sensible. And the Buccaneers, one of the reasons they've been so good is they built up their offensive line for years. I think that they start to build that foundation here in Jacksonville. Number 6, we have the Las Vegas Raiders on the clock, and we have them going with Ashton Jeanty from Boise State. There's a lot of reasons I think this makes sense. Raiders clearly need a running back, but they also, I think, want a little bit more of a show. Keep in mind, they're on the Vegas Strip. They have to be exciting. They have to be fun. And when they don't really have that franchise quarterback here at number 6, I do believe the Raiders are looking to make it a show. They look at Jeanty as being arguably the most dynamic offensive weapon in this entire draft. He comes in right away, makes a huge impact on that offense, and helps ease whoever the quarterback is going to be. Moving on to number 7, the New York Jets. I have them going Tyler Warren, the tight end out of Penn State. Look, it is going to be a torn room in Florham Park when you have Mason Graham and Tyler Warren there. But here's the reason I have them going with Warren. They have a massive hole at right tackle. They don't have a legitimate number 2 receiving option. And when you look at the draft, yes, they want to build up these trenches. Yes, Mason Graham would be a dynamic player, but they look at Tyler Warren as one of the top players in this draft, a blue chip guy that's going to be the number 2 target and a guy that's going to make Justin Fields' life easier. He's going to be that security blanket over the middle of the field, but also help impact the running game because he is a really good run blocking. I know this is a polarizing pick. I could see a lot of different scenarios here. I also wouldn't throw out the Saints or maybe the Bears trading up here to try to get Mason Graham at 7. I could see the Jets propelling back. But right now I have them sticking in at 7 and going with Tyler Warren, the tight end out of Penn State, which means the Panthers will sit there at 8 and get the best interior defensive lineman in the draft with Mason Graham. Look, it's very simple with Carolina. I understand that they need to get Bryce Young some weapons, but this defense was dead last in the most yards allowed last year. They were dead last in points allowed. They need help, and getting an impact player in the middle of this defense is going to be huge. And really, this is the last kind of blue chip player I really think in this draft at the top of the board. And now you look at what Carolina's going to do. They're going to look at Graham. They should get a blue chip guy, a great plug and play guy, and a guy that helps their defense right away. Now moving on to the Saints. New Orleans can go a lot of different directions, but I feel they go and upgrade the offensive line with Will Campbell out of LSU. A lot of good things also too with LSU here. You have that Louisiana connection. I think he'll be a very good marketable player for the Saints. But the offensive line needs an upgrade. I also wouldn't rule out a playmaker here. I think it's a little bit early for a playmaker here for the Saints, but they do an investment in the offensive line, which they continue to build out. So the Bears at number 10, they went all in on offense in the free agency class. How do they top it off here? I have them going with Jalen Walker, the edge out of Georgia. Look, the Bears offense, they've settled the offensive line. They have all these weapons. Now it's time to build up that defense. And you have a good edge rusher in Montez Sweat. You get Jalen Walker, who's a nice bookend to him. And that can be a fun pass rushing duo for many years to come. Up next at number 11, we have the 49ers. And the 49ers, I have them going with Shamar Stewart, the edge out of Texas A&M. 49ers need edge presence, but also you look at their new D coordinator, Robert Saleh. He loves betting on the physical tools. When he was with the Jets, always was drafting on the physical upside. Now, I do think Stewart is a bit of a risk. You look at the production numbers in college, only 4.5 sacks. That is a bit worrying. But when you see the size, the speed, and the combination of all the physical tools he brings, I think that the 49ers, and especially defensive coordinator Robert Saleh, is going to be salivating at that podium to get up there and get Stewart and add him to their defense. Number 12, the Dallas Cowboys, America's team, is on the clock, and I have them going with Ted McMillan, the wide receiver out of Arizona. Look, CeeDee Lamb is unbelievable, but he needs some help. You give Dak a number 2 option here in Ted. Ted's a good blocking receiver on the outside. And again, you look at the Cowboys, they're always a team, especially in the draft, they love to be flashy. Yes, they need offensive line improvement. That also could be in play here as well. But just looking at getting a big body wide receiver next to CeeDee Lamb, adding to this offense is a really nice piece. And you add a nice complement to CeeDee Lamb, a big receiver, possession receiver that can go above the rim, be a very good weapon in the red zone, and give Dak another good option. Now we have the Dolphins on the clock at number 13. I have the Dolphins going with Will Johnson, the cornerback out of Michigan. If you were to do this draft back before the college football season, there was a good chance Johnson was going to be a top 5 pick. Now you look at last year, a bit of a disappointing season, but still a lot of upside. The Dolphins need a lot of help in the back end. They could also go safety here. But I think they're going to just look at this value here for Will Johnson. They're going to bet on the intangibles. They're going to bet on the previous year's tape, and they look at it. And plus, don't forget, you're in a division where you're going to see the Patriots add weapons. You have Garrett Wilson for the Jets that you have to cover. You have the Bills with a lot of offensive weapons. I do think the Dolphins need to invest in the back end of their defense. Number 14, after missing out on a tight end last year, the Colts will get another one this year. I have them going with Colston Loveland out of Michigan. So Michigan goes back-to-back and belly-to-belly here in the draft at 13 and 14. Colston, a physically gifted tight end, can make a lot of plays, really physical in the run game. I think he'll bring a nice dynamic to this Colts offense, potentially a nice safety blanket for Anthony Richardson or Daniel Jones, whatever quarterback is playing. But Colston, good value here as the Colts address a much-needed position. Moving on to 15, I have the Falcons on the clock taking Mike Green, the edge rusher out of Marshall. You look at the Falcons, they need an edge presence, and they get the FBS leader in sacks from last year. And look, I think Green's been someone that's been consistently moving up the boards with the presence at the Senior Bowl, how he's performed in this offseason, the physical ability that he brings to the table. But overall, I think this would be a high upside pick for Jeff Ulbrich and this new defensive staff. They need to get after the quarterback. You have dynamic offenses in the South. This would be a very nice pick here. And Green is one of these guys I could see even going as high as the back end of the top 10, but he's here at 15. Falcons get their edge rusher right now. And it's going to be a bit of a run right now. Not going to lie, guys. We're going to have a bit of a run on some defensive players and some interior beef as we move into pick 16, halfway through round number 1. I have the Cardinals going with Michael Williams, the linebacker and edge out of Georgia. Now, look, I could see offensive line just as easily being in play here, but the Cardinals get a great run-setting edge here, someone that's fell because of an injury in 2024, one of those guys that could have maybe even been in the conversation for a top 10 player. He could still be a guy that somehow finds his way in the top 10, but the Cardinals just look at the incredible value here at 16. They look at a dynamic player. They look at someone that's going to instantly help their run defense, but has a good ceiling to improve in the pass rush. At number 17, I have the Bengals, who have spent God knows how much money on offense, investing in the defense. Now, Kenneth Grant is one of the most intriguing players in this draft. When he is on, he has some of the best tape you will ever see. But the problem is there's a lot of off switch with him. When you look at his swings, it is really a bit worrying, but the Bengals are going to take a shot on him here with that great upside. They need to improve this defense. They need to improve their pass rush. This is a guy, when Grant is on, he is a really great player. I think the Bengals take a shot on him here. They look at just the talent, they look at the physical gifts, and they're saying, look, we just have to take what we believe is the number one ceiling available on the board right now for defense. At 18, I have the Seahawks going a little bit more conservative. I have them going with Tyler Book, the guard out of Alabama. They can go a lot of ways. They need to upgrade the receiver room. Again, they have a couple nice veteran pieces, but on one-year deals. Corner is a position that they could attack as well, but they need to improve the interior of this offensive line. They need to give Sam Darnold protection on the interior and also a running blocker. I look right here with Book. Great run blocker, can get up the field, can really punch some holes. And look, when Seattle's great, they've had great offensive lines. They've been able to move the football. They've been able to run the football. And that is a situation where I think you get a plug-and-play guard right away, and the Seahawks do not look back. Moving on to 19, and the Tampa Bay Buccaneers are on the clock. I have them going with Jihad Campbell, the linebacker out of Alabama, explosive player, and incredibly productive, over 100 tackles for the Crimson Tide. He will be a key asset in Tampa's front seven. This is a guy that's going to be a really dynamic player right away and make a big difference on this team. Moving on to pick 20. Wait. We have a trade coming in. We have a trade. The Broncos, who are on the clock with pick 20, are trading out of the first round. In this scenario, I have the Broncos trading with the New York Giants, who will give up the 34th pick, the second-rounded pick in this draft, a 2026 second-rounder, and pick 105 in this draft, which is a fourth-rounder. They move up because they jumped the Steelers at pick 21 to select Jackson Dart, the quarterback out of Ole Miss. Here's the thing. The Giants need a long-term plan. They have two Band-Aids at the quarterback room. They need a selling point for their boss because they need to have selected someone as a viable option. If this season starts to go off the rails and starts to go the wrong direction, this is the last parachute for Brian Daboll and Joe Schoen. Because if they can get Jackson Dart out there in the second half of the season and he looks the part and he looks like the franchise quarterback that they believe in, they get to keep their jobs. Yes, they burn a future second-round pick, but they might not be here long enough if they don't get the quarterback right. They panic at 34 because they realize there's a good chance they're not going to get a quarterback. The Steelers sitting there at 21 feel that Dart's going to fall into their lap. But the Giants pounce. They jump in front of the Steelers at 21 to get their long-term quarterback of the future at pick number 20. While the Broncos get some key assets, they move out of the first round. They gain a key second-round pick in next year's draft, which will be a very talented draft class. And for a team that's looking for a running back and additional pieces to put around their young quarterback in Bo Nix, they have got a lot of assets to do just that, which means 21, the Steelers are caught in a hard place. They were hoping Jackson Dart would fall into their lap. So instead, they pivot. They go with Tyler Shaw, the quarterback out of Louisville. I understand he's 25. I understand that Aaron Rodgers is likely going to be there at some point. But the Steelers need to have a long-term plan. They're always in this weird quarterback purgatory where they're not up high enough to draft someone. Shaw is someone that can play right away if they don't get Aaron Rodgers, or if Aaron Rodgers gets hurt this year, he is a quick insert into this lineup. I understand he's not the sexiest pick here for the Steelers, but one thing about him, he is a very consistent quarterback. He's 6'5", looks the part, highly accurate, not going to make terrible decisions in the pocket. I think that this is a safe pick, a game-managing type of quarterback where I understand it won't really salivate the Steelers' need for a quarterback, but this can be a good game manager until they find a long-term option potentially, or at least gives them some sort of the bridge in the near future. Again, if the Steelers want Jackson Dart, and I'm telling Steeler fans this, if you want Jackson Dart, they're going to have to be aggressive and move up into the teens to assure that they get him. If they play the waiting game, I think a team in this scenario with the Giants is very real, where a team will jump them because they know how much they need a quarterback. So a bit of a curveball here with quarterbacks. We've had quarterbacks go back-to-back at 1 and 2. We have quarterbacks going back-to-back here at 20 and 21. Will we get 3 quarterbacks in a row? No. The Chargers instead will go with a weapon because they have their quarterback. They will go with Matthew Golden, the wide receiver out of Texas. Last year, they had the chance to add a weapon. They went offensive line. This year, they add a dynamic 4-3 receiver that can stretch the defense. Herbert needed some more weapons on the offense last year, especially on the outside. They get an incredibly dynamic one here in Golden, and I think Justin Herbert will be incredibly happy. Moving into pick 23, the Packers are on the clock, and I have them going with Derek Harmon, the defensive tackle out of Oregon. They need to improve the interior. He's a dynamic interior pass rusher, one of the best players still on the board. The Green Bay Packers have done an unbelievable job of finding great value in playmakers, especially on the offensive side later in the draft. I think this is one of the few holes on their defense they need to pitch is the middle. This is a good pick right here for them. They get a dynamic player that's going to make an impact in the middle of their defense from day one. Moving on to pick 24 with the Vikings, I am going to go with Malachi Starks, the safety out of Georgia. Dynamic player, can play multiple positions, really heady and smart safety. He's a versatile defensive back that I can see lining up all over the field. The Vikings have a very good front seven. The back end is a little bit suspect, but Starks is a plug-and-play guy right away that they can build around and help rebuild the back end of their secondary. So the Texans need some beef at 25. And they get it with Josh Simmons, the offensive tackle out of Ohio State. Simmons has fallen here because of the knee injury last year, but this is a guy that, especially if the medicals check out, this is a plug-and-play left tackle. This is someone that the Texans desperately need. And we're starting to get into a bit of a part of the draft here where we are seeing teams that need offensive line help. They need to upgrade the offensive line, and you're going to see a bit of a theme start to emerge moving forward. I have the Rams next up on the clock, pick 26, and I have them staying in the horseshoe, getting Emeka Egbuka, the wide receiver out of Ohio State. And it's, I think, perfect because they lose Cooper Kupp. I look at Egbuka. He is just a highly productive wide receiver, just makes plays, is a crisp route runner, can find the ball, and this is someone that they're going to put right into LA. He'll be a dynamic player from week one. I know that they were able to find Puka Nacua later in the draft, but this is someone that I feel that especially this offensive staff is going to look at the value and look at the piece that he brings and the skill set and the route tree, that it's going to be too enticing for the Rams to pass up Egbuka here. Number 27, I have the Ravens on the clock, and I have them going with the interior offensive lineman, Gray Zabel out of North Dakota, can play multiple positions on the line. The Ravens need to improve their interior, their offensive line. And the thing with the Ravens is you have a great running back. You have a great running quarterback. You need the offensive line. I think you saw a loss of production when they lost John Simpson and Morgan Moses in free agency the previous year. This is a good chance to rebuild that wall in front of Lamar Jackson and be able to just control the clock, because especially for the Ravens, if they want to win and make a Super Bowl run, they're going to have to control the ground game and control the time of possession, and you do that with ball control on the ground. Up next is the Lions at pick 28. I have them going with James Pierce Jr., the edge out of Tennessee. He reminds me a lot of Will McDonald when he was coming out of the draft, a bit undersized, but comes off the edge like a bat out of heck. Really fast player. Keep in mind, you look at the edges right now. Hutchinson coming back from that graphic injury. Don't know how long it's going to take for him to get up to speed. The edge all of a sudden in Detroit is looking a little bit suspect. You bring in a guy that can help ease that recovery, can make an impact, and especially in a division now with a lot of great passing games and a lot of weapons, you need to be able to get to the quarterback, and Pierce will do just that for Detroit. Up next is the Commanders at 29. Wait, we have another trade. The Commanders are trading with the New York Jets. The Jets will be trading pick 42, this year's second rounder, pick 110, this year's fourth rounder, and a future 2026 day 3 pick, potentially a conditional pick that becomes a sixth to a fifth, or a fifth to a fourth. But they are able to move up to pick 29, and the Jets will select Josh Conerly, the offensive tackle out of Oregon. They need to upgrade the right tackle position. The Jets see the start of run on offensive linemen. They feel they're not going to be able to wait till pick 42. Yes, they give up a key fourth rounder in this draft, but don't forget the Jets also have the 75th pick in this draft. I could see them now using that pick to bounce back in round 3 to get more assets to replace that. Look, the Jets now want to control the clock. They want to run the football, and they need to make it work with Justin Fields. They have too big of a hole at right tackle to ignore. I feel that if they wait, they're not going to get their value. So they pounce here. They jump in front of the Bills at pick 30. They get the Commanders pick. The Commanders are able to get 3 nice picks, including a pick in next year's draft, which they can use. And the Jets get a plug-and-play tackle to sneak in the back of round number 1. Moving on to pick 30, I have the Buffalo Bills taking Maxwell Hairston, the cornerback out of Kentucky. The Bills clearly need help on the corner position. If you're going to be in a Super Bowl contending position and go and get some of these great wide receiver pairings and great quarterbacks, they need defensive help. I think that Hairston is the best corner on the board right here. He will be a day 1 starter in Buffalo and fill a major need for Bills Mafia. Pick 31, and wait a minute, we have our final trade of round number 1. The Chiefs are moving back to gain more assets, especially after losing a lot of assets on the offense and defensive line. The Chiefs are trading with the New England Patriots. The Patriots will trade pick 38, the second rounder, and pick 106, which is a fourth rounder. And with the 31st pick, the Patriots come back to get Kelvin Banks Jr., the offensive tackle out of Texas. The Patriots, again, wanted to get an offensive lineman early. They see the run from the Jets. They know the Chiefs could be interested. They know the Eagles could be interested. They see this run on offensive linemen. They want to make sure that they get a starting caliber tackle still on the board. They bring in Banks Jr. So in round 1, the Patriots were able to get the best defensive player in the draft and also swoop back in to get a key asset and a key building block in front of their franchise quarterback. And our final pick, pick 32, is the defending Super Bowl champion Philadelphia Eagles. And I have them selecting another Howie Roseman special, which is going to the SEC. And surprisingly, it's not a Georgia Bulldog, but I have them taking Walter Nolan, the defensive tackle out of Ole Miss. I'm not just picking him because he has a great last name, just saying. But Walter Nolan, you look at the Eagles, they've lost a lot on the offensive side of the ball, but they've also lost a lot of firepower in the interior of their defensive line. Walter Nolan is a great interior pass rush. He will fit like a glove into this attacking defense that the Eagles have. I also can see the Eagles trading out of 32 to get a couple more picks. But the Eagles get a great interior pass rusher. It's an ironic thing, too. They lose their good young defensive tackle to the Patriots, who jumped them at 31. But at 32, they're able to get a big piece to help with their pass rush on the interior in their pursuit to repeat as Super Bowl champions. So that is our mock draft in the books. 32 picks, 32 different opportunities from every team with a bunch of trades. And again, guys, if you're here on the live stream right now, you can comment. Let us know what you think of the draft, what picks you were surprised by. If you have questions about how I came up with this mock draft, please let me know. And if you are joining us after the live stream, let me know what you think. Did you like what I had your team doing? Is there a need that I'm overlooking for your team? Let me know in the comments because I would love to hear it. But just recapping, and again, if you want to comment, make sure to comment in the feed and I will answer your questions. Again, super chat to make donations to the channel to help us create more content. And of course, so you can jump to the front of the line. I think the two biggest themes from this draft is the quarterbacks. I had 4 quarterbacks going in this draft, and it really is about the supply and demand. I think the biggest surprise is Shedeur at 2. I understand that a lot of people have him going to the Giants, some people falling down the board. The reason I just feel the Browns are going to do it is because they need a young building block at quarterback. I think that they're also telling you that they're interested because of the Giants. If the Giants were convinced that Shedeur was going to be there, I don't believe they would have signed Russell Wilson for what they did. I think the Giants did that because they're getting enough intel like last season that the quarterback they wanted, last year they wanted Drake May, they're getting the intel. There's a good chance he's not going to be there. And I'm just playing the scenario that if Shedeur does go at number 2, which again is a distinct possibility, it could easily happen. What do the Giants do at 3? And then how do they address the quarterback position, which brings us to the other 2 quarterbacks selected. I think the other hot spot for the quarterbacks in this draft are going to be around Pittsburgh. I really believe even if Aaron Rodgers signs eventually with the Steelers are going to have to draft a quarterback. They're almost forced to at this point because they've lost Russell Wilson, they've lost Justin Fields. They need a quarterback, and they need some sort of long-term answer. In a perfect world, I think the Steelers are praying that Jackson Dart from Ole Miss falls to them at pick 21. But I would warn Steeler fans, if you love Jackson Dart that much, be aggressive. Go up and get him in this draft. Do not wait for him at 21 because when you are a team that has a glaring need as big as the Steelers, and everyone knows it, if there is a team that equally likes Jackson Dart, they will jump you at pick 20. They will jump you. They might even go a little higher. They might go to the Bucs at 19, maybe even the Seahawks. My scenario is the Giants miss out on their quarterback early. They look at the opportunity to get up and get Jackson Dart. It is a rich cost to go up and get him, but this is also a staff that's desperate. If the Giants do not walk away with a future plan at quarterback, it is not a good look for this organization. And it also is a selling point because if the season doesn't go well, if let's play Russell Wilson looks old, let's play Russell Wilson isn't playing well, let's play the Jameis Winston is throwing for 300 yards, but also throwing for 4 interceptions, this gives the Giants a backup plan. And to me, it's their last parachute where if Brian Daboll can have an 8-game, 9-game tryout with Dart and he looks the part, he looks like a franchise quarterback, they win games down the stretch of the season, and you feel really good going into year number 2 with him, I think that could save this regime's job. Now, could they wait until 34 to get their quarterback? Sure. But like the Steelers, if a team knows that the Giants really want someone at the quarterback position, they're going to have to jump. So because of that, I have Tyler Shout going at 21. I do think that there is a legitimate chance, despite his age, that he is going to go in the first round for 2 very important reasons. Number one, if the Steelers miss out on Dart, I think he's going to be in play at 21. But the big thing with quarterbacks, and we have to remember this in the NFL draft, if you want a quarterback and you believe in him, it is crucial, even if you have to give up draft capital, it makes more sense to go up and get the quarterback so you have that 5th-year option available to you because it could save you a lot of money in the future, especially if you hit on that quarterback. Other themes in this draft, I think you're going to see a lot of offensive linemen really fly off the board, especially after about the 17th pick. I think a lot of teams in the back end of this first round need offensive line help. So I think you're going to see a lot of offensive line go. Some receivers are going in the 20s. I think you're going to see a lot of trade-in candidates. I had the Patriots and the Jets trading back in late to grab an offensive lineman because of this run. and you look at the top of the second round, there's a lot of teams that could use offensive line help. So I think you're going to see teams jostling to get position and move back up into the first round. Again, I think you're going to see certain players not fall too far. And I think the biggest surprise I probably have was Armand Membu at number 5. But overall, I think that this is a draft that is very likable. I think this is a draft that is very likely. And I also think this is a draft that makes a lot of sense for these teams that are in there. And again, guys, live stream, if you want to join us after the live stream and let us know what you think of the mock draft. If your team, if there's a certain player you want for your team, let me know in the comments. But we will be doing this again before the draft. Again, let us know your thoughts on our draft in the comments. Make sure to like and subscribe so you don't miss any of our latest videos. But again, guys, thank you so much for joining us here on a Mock Draft Monday. Our mock draft is in the books. The 32 picks have been submitted. Where are we going to go next? Well, you'll have to see here on Rich Sports Talk. We will see you next time.